Boom. That's recording. We've got space.
Awesome.
Lynsey's mic's on. Actually, no, it's not. So if you hold that little button, that one, and it should turn into blue potentially. Yep.
Awesome.
And then we just go record. Actually, let's go. Is that going to be bothering you?
No,
there?
I'll just look at you. I'm just going to pretend everything's not recording me.
Because I think perfect. Because the red is on you, but that looks kind of cool too.
Okay, cool.
Okay. And as soon as I press that big green button, we are on. Did you have a water bottle with you or anything?
I did. I left it in the car, but I should be.
You going to be okay?
Yeah.
Cool.
Good.
Otherwise, you can slurp on my water.
It's okay. Trav, I'm going to have to get after you though about that plastic water bottle.
I know. I walked in. I was like, how the fuck did I forget my bottle?
Lynsey's going to go after me on this one.
I looked for the best thing I could, and I was like, spring water, but knowing that's probably been sitting in a factory somewhere.
You should just call this man boobs water.
No wonder. Fuck.
You'll never look at
Wait,
a water
can you
bottle.
drop that? Can you drop that in there where it's like all these guys drinking plastic water? Think about your titties you've got, and that's why it's happening.
You'll have to say what I told you.
I'll drop that, and then I'll stop drinking that shit straight away.
Yeah, I bet you will. That's what I said. Is when you think of man boobs, every time you drink it, you'll be like, oh.
Oh, yeah, no more. Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
Oh. I almost forgot. Christelle got up me one time because I had chewing gum in my mouth, and she could hear it. Her autism picks up on it. 3, 2, 1. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Technician Podcast. Today, I've got a good friend of mine, Lynsey Koch, and we're here to talk about what are we going to talk about here?
Anxiety and how it is not just a mental health disorder. We want to reframe this a little bit differently and look at it from the perspective that it might be a gut-brain axis disorder.
And I'm excited because what we really want to show today is the men. We talk so much about, mental health, talk about your stuff, and yet we don't talk about the glaring, true disorders that are going on within the gut that are causing a lot of the mental health issues. So where can we start to really ram this home, especially for men who are still out there? A lot of the tradies, especially, I just said this in my story before, it's like we've got all these incredible organizations trying to help, like the Black Dog Institute, Live In, all these things, right? And I love that they're doing it. And yet we don't say the basics of, hey, mate, every time you stop at that 7-Eleven and smash that chalky milk, saucy roll, the V, all this shit, you're just making your anxiety and depression worse.
100%. Yeah.
So can we touch on that a little bit real quick?
Yeah. First of all, we probably need to define the term of what gut-brain axis is. Somehow, I don't know, I think in our history, in our medical system, we kind of look at separate organ systems. You know, the brain is a completely separate study versus the cardiologist and the heart. None of these parts of our body are separate. So, like I said, our head is connected to our body via the neck. So you're going to have an influence on either end. So like I said, the gut is something that is intimately in a relationship with the brain, so much so that we now realize that when it comes to information that's going between the brain and the gut actually sends 90% more signals up than the brain does down.
Can you just repeat that for the listener?
Yes. So when we talk about neurological signaling and information, we have pretty much 90% more signals going up to the brain than the brain down to the gut. So that should just tell you, okay, hang on a minute. That's probably a really, really important part to our mental health. So it's connected via the vagus nerve. So this is why some of the techniques that you can use when you have anxiety and even a bit of depression is what we call vagal nerve stimulation. It's called the wandering nerve. It's the nerve that connects the brain down to the gut. And so these are exercises like humming or singing or chanting or gargling because it runs down by the throat. And so when you do these activities, it actually teaches the connection between the gut and the brain to be a bit more calm and be better. So we have to recognize the importance that they're interconnected. And then, of course, that transfers into what do we put into our gut? What is the main thing we put into our gut?
Food.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to have a massive difference. So the point that you're talking about is when I guess we come to the point where there's so many distractions in our world, in a modern living world, that we maybe aren't just as mindful as we probably should be about our choices of food. Like food is meant to be enjoyed. As a clinical nutritionist, I want people to love their food. I also just want them to recognize the food has a potential to, improve your health or degrade your health. And that's every single time we make a choice. Doesn't mean that we have to be strict or rigid all the time. It's the 80-20 rule. But the choices that some people make, running to the servo on the fly, getting a sausage roll or a pie and a V, is going to dramatically influence not only the nutrients that are going into your body, but also there's this whole other element that we're starting to talk a little bit more about it, but it's your microbiome. So when we talk about your microbiome, we have about 38 or 39 trillion bacteria that reside in our large intestine and colon. That's where most of them sit. So 39 trillion is kind of like, how does your brain even conceptualize that number? It's more stars than we've ever plotted in the entire universe. So it's mind-blowing when you start to go, whoa, hang on a minute. There's this whole pretty much Amazon ecosystem that resides in our gut. And we're starting to recognize, even in my world of functional medicine, that the microbiome as a collective, these bacteria and these microbes, are just as important as any other organ system, and they should be classed as their own organ system. So just as important as the brain, the lungs, the heart, the liver, the microbiome has such a dramatic influence on your mental health, mainly from the standpoint is they have several roles. They help us absorb nutrients. But of course, if you're putting food into the system that is very nutrient devoid, like for example, like some of these highly processed packaged foods, they'll give you energy, no doubt about it. They're probably not going to give you nutrition. So it'll perk you up for a short amount of time, spike your glucose, and then you're going to just have a crash. And you're just going to set yourself on this roller coaster throughout the entire day.
Even that, just to touch on that real quick, and how big the fitness industry has grown, right? Which is great to see more people doing run clubs, training, young lads, like all these things. And yet the food is getting shittier. They're going, hey, let's reduce your calories and eat this. And yet that one bar has like 10,000 different ingredients in the back end that are probably cooking that gut microbiome we're talking about. Can you speak a little bit into that for anyone listening that might be into the fitness industry, especially lifting heavy weights, how much that's already a stressful thing, and yet then they're just stressing their body more with the things they're doing around that?
The thing that cracks me up too is that if you're going to go through the effort of going to a gym, lifting, trying to get some gains, we all know we need protein, but the type of protein that's recommended, I'm like, sometimes it's highly synthetic, manufactured, and sometimes it's not even enough. The important part is it's not just what you lift to break those muscle fibers to build muscle, is you need the right amount of protein and the right quality of protein to be able to keep it. So sometimes I go, man, if you're getting in there and you're doing all the effort, back it up with some good nutrition. It makes a massive, massive difference. So, like we were talking about the microbiome, they help us absorb nutrients. They are much better at digesting food, believe it or not, than we are. So we have a certain amount of enzymes to break down different foods. They have hundreds and thousands. So they are incredible at doing it. So yes, they help us extract a lot of our nutrient content. But a really big part of that too is then they take some of these foods and these nutrients and they help us make neurotransmitters. So we don't realize is we have four sort of major neurotransmitters that we use in the brain, which is acetylcholine, dopamine, serotonin, and GABA. So I kind of like class them in kind of two groups if we were to kind of simplify them. There's some that are kind of on switches, which is the acetylcholine and dopamine, and a couple of them are like the off switches, which is serotonin and GABA. And that's how our brain keeps this homeostasis, this balance. But 3 out of the 4, and even a little bit of acetylcholine is actually facilitated in there, but dopamine, serotonin, and GABA are made in the gut. Particularly serotonin. I'm sure everyone at some point has probably heard someone talk about, 80 to 90% of serotonin is made in the gut and then transported to the brain. It is 100% true. So if you go back to thinking, okay, I influence what microbes are there based upon what kind of food I eat, and depending on the type of microbes that are there, will either help or hinder me in making my neurotransmitters. That is the simplest connection of how this anxiety and depression, it's a gut-brain issue.
Because what's one of the main neurotransmitters that affects depression, right?
Yeah. We need serotonin.
And I hear that, and just as you said that, and visually I can see it, it's like you've got two masculine neurotransmitters and two feminine.
Yeah. You'll always see this balance point.
Yeah, wow. And just to continue on with this, because I think there's a lot of people that listen that might dabble in this, where I've got no judgment. It's just bringing them aware to it.
Yeah.
How much steroids is also affecting their body in that way?
Oh, God. Well, yeah.
Because I've found that's a big thing now, where they're so concerned about how jacked they are. And I get it. Like a lot of them have self-confidence issues and maybe they were bullied or whatever. They want to get as jacked and big as they possibly think.
Yeah.
Because they think that's their worth, right? A lot of them. But what are they actually doing to their brain and body and their gut by injecting this synthetic shit into their body?
Oh, absolutely. So we know that when you take certain pharmaceutical medications, steroids included, you will dramatically influence the microbes there. So give you an idea, when you intake food or medication, whether it gets the bloodstream or through eating orally, within 24 to 48 hours, you influence about 50 generations of microbes. Okay, so let me put it this way. You have a certain food that's probably highly processed or packaged or refined. Within 24 to 48 hours, that's going to increase the population density of certain type of microbes that are a little bit more pathogenic. So we have a certain class of bacteria that are pathogens called gram-negative bacteria. And the reason that they're so bad is that they release this little molecule called LPS, lipopolysaccharide. And this lipopolysaccharide molecule is incredibly damaging, and it's also incredibly inflammatory. And it tends to cross into the blood-brain barrier. So I did a video not too long ago on my socials. I think you might have even shared it, talking about we're missing so many of the marks. Like pharmaceutical medications now are spending billions and billions and billions of dollars trying to come up with, in particular, anxiety medications, because the reality is there's been an increase in anxiety by about 25% since COVID.
That's massive. If we talk about and is that worldwide?
Yeah.
So if there's 8 billion people, guys, think about the increase of that.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Absolutely. So it's a big focus for pharmaceutical industry. So what they're doing, this is why I was like so dumbfounded when I looked at the research. I was like, oh my God. The way they're synthesizing an anxiety state, and they do this obviously in rat investigations, is by injecting them with this LPS. So they will inject rats with LPS because they know it crosses the blood-brain barrier and it creates the same situation of anxiety and depression.
Oh, wow.
Okay, but what they're doing to synthesize anxiety and depression's probably giving you one of the big answers of what's actually going on from a root cause approach.
Yeah.
For all of us that have got some mental health challenges. There is always going to be a component of what is going on inside your gut microbiome. And how are you influencing it 3 times a day by what food or medications or steroids or any of these things that we make
Coffee.
choices. Yeah, absolutely. It all will have an effect. That's like I said, when you realize that what you eat 50 generations within 48 hours, that can work in your favor. As in awesome. Like if we kind of bring our diet into more whole foods, as much as we can, as clean as we can, then those type of foods are going to influence incredibly beneficial bacteria, the ones that will help us produce these neurotransmitters, that will help us maintain our mental health.
That's so big knowing that, because the stats are there. This isn't just something that we're sitting here talking about making up in a subjective matter.
Yeah.
There's objective truth to this, but based on the science that they're proving with this, right? Now, why do you think people don't take this more seriously? That they can affect, or even, this is what I find, Lyns, is that you can give people the solutions and the answers, and yet there's something in them that like, oh, I just won't do that. What do you mean I can drink more water and I'll feel better?
Yeah.
Like the basic stuff. Even I'm drinking my titty water here.
Yes.
We were just talking about before where I knew Lyns was going to get up me, but I had to find some water before I came here, and I grabbed a plastic bloody bottle, knowing that that's especially for men, producing.
Yeah, you've got chemical compounds in there that increase estrogen.
Estrogen, yeah. So my man boobs are getting bigger based off the plastic water I'm drinking. So even those little things, guys, like you can literally, as Lyns just said, you can affect your body in such a positive way just by the small choices you're making by grabbing something off the shelf.
Yeah. I think people don't start on any kind of health change because they feel like, oh, I've got to be like so good. I've got to be so rigid and strict and dedicated. And I go, no, look, small changes over time. I always use the analogy when I talk to my clients. I go, okay, because some people are really resistant to change. You see this, I'm sure you see this all the time too. There's this mental aspect. The psychology of it's very interesting. I often say, and I had a lady last week too that was like, well, I don't know if I can eat, a really good breakfast, and I really love my, just smoothie she was having quite a bit of sugars in there. And I go, okay, I'll frame it this way. How long have you been having your drink, your smoothie for breakfast? Probably about 6 years. And I go, okay, are you happy with your health right now? And she just went, oh. And I go, so one little slight change, one deviation. I said, if you're on this path, and if you're on the path that you don't like where your health is at right now, you have to reflect and you have to acknowledge, okay, what have I been doing? And you take one slight degree change, and that 1 degree change off of your path over 365 days, you are in a completely different trajectory than where you were before.
And it's easier for your unconscious to make these changes. Like the rewiring aspect I use in methodology is like the shadow shifting. So to build micro habits that will stack eventually to change, like you said. If I want someone to maybe get a bit more movement in their life, it's not, I want you to go start running 5Ks. It's when you know you need to go do it, but that voice is saying, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
Walk to the front fence.
Yeah.
And then come back. You've just shifted that shadow a little bit.
Yeah.
And eventually 500 meters, a kilometer, like you said. And yet people still don't have enough reason to do these little things until shit gets too late, right?
It's sometimes more comfortable to be uncomfortable if you've been uncomfortable for the most of your life.
It's safe.
It is.
For some people, it's like it's safe. It's in the change of environment, what they're used to. Even if it's a healthier space or happier, it doesn't seem safe to them.
Yeah, it's the unknown.
Yeah.
And that's scary. So sometimes it sounds crazy, but sometimes we stay stuck in a space, whether it be mental health challenges or physical health problems, because that's just what you've known and that's comfortable.
Yeah,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
So creating a bit of a picture for anyone that might be in that space right now where it's like, but I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
Why would I want to change?
I'm uncomfortably comfortable.
Yeah. And even, I was talking to Lynsey before where she's given me a couple of little things where it's like even just smelling your food while you're cooking it and before you eat it to activate the digestive system, that's helped me. I don't get indigestion ever anymore. Even just having some apple cider vinegar before I eat as well.
Yeah.
I remember to do that as often as I can. Fermented foods, even just a little spoon. What were you saying? Like a spoonful of the juice from that?
A teaspoon. So I try and get fermented foods, of course, taste. It's a little bit, like that savory, salty, pickled taste.
Yep.
It's not everyone's cup of tea. If you can just start by drinking 1 tiny teaspoon of the liquid, there's literally thousands and thousands of good bacteria in just a teaspoon. So I was like, come on, boys, come on, Women tend to be a little bit better at this. I'm like trying to get the boys on the page. I'm like, you can do this. It's not that hard. And then just watch to see what happens. We assume that tiny little things don't make a difference, but microbes in those 38 trillion, they're looking for the tiniest little, particles when it comes to nutrition, and they can thrive off of them.
I know that a lot of men are very visual.
Yeah.
A lot of us are neurodivergent. Now, for anyone listening, that's ADHD.
I love that you say that.
And so for the listener right now, to give them a picture of the outcome of making these small changes in a really simple way, what are they going to notice just by doing those little things? What's going to start happening for them?
Well, straight away you'll notice digestive symptoms improve. I can't tell you how many. My husband says it all the time. I don't go into men's toilets, but he comes out.
Boy, they're the worst.
Yes,
They're rank.
He comes out just horrified,
Yeah.
and he's like, first thing he says to me is, "Lyns, there's so many guys that need you."
Yeah, there's poo on the rim of the rim. How does that even happen? It's like
Defies gravity.
Yeah, it's like as they pull their pants down, it is just racing to get out of them.
Yeah, and they think that's normal. It is not normal. Unfortunately, it's probably common. Ain't normal. So
That the common now has become the average. So they go, oh, that's normal.
Yeah.
Because it's the same as every other unhealthy motherfucker getting around.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you'll notice straight away when you start getting in, and look, there's certain needs for every type of macro or food group in it. Like we need protein. Okay, so from a mental health perspective, we need protein because protein breaks down into amino acids. So the substrates for our body to build neurotransmitters with the help of our microbes are primarily, if we're going to simplify it, is amino acids and B vitamins. So you need protein. All different sources. That doesn't mean just go heavy on the steak. I know men love that. Great. Make sure it's quality, no hormones, no antibiotics, all the rest. But you need to get a diversity and wide range. So have some fish sometime. I know lentils is probably not something on the average guy's plate. Try it. Try it. It's got amazing sources of fiber in it as well. So it's protein and fiber. But we need protein for amino acids to help us. We also need the B vitamins that are in a lot of animal-based foods as well. We also need plants. And this is probably where, from the guy perspective, we tend to be a little bit shy on the vegetable front, or there's like a token effort. I tease my husband all the time. He'll like put the small little, like, I'm like, no. Let's expand.
Oh, Michael, I hear you. I feel you.
Oh, I've seen your meals. I have to restrain myself from like being annoying and being like, Trav.
I also know you just care. You just care. It's good to get the reminder because then it's like, she's right, damn it.
Right. So when you look at, okay, what do the plants and the vegetables give me from a mental health perspective? They're not really as much for us, even though there's incredible antioxidants and nutrients and minerals in them. But aside from that, if you could just justify it in your brain, I am eating plant-based foods, not just for me. It's actually for those microbes because that is what they thrive off of. That is their food. Prebiotic fibers and polyphenols, which are the colors and pigments in, fruits and vegetables and things like that. So we need those plants to foster a healthy and diverse microbiome with the type of species of bacteria in there that are going to help us to produce the serotonin, the GABA, all of that. Yeah.
It's basically you put diverse plants in your body, you will be happier.
It's the simplest, yeah.
If I really get it super simple,
Yep.
Guys, plants equal happy brain.
Yes.
Think about that.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you, can I nerd out and get into a little bit of
100%, go as sciencey as you need.
Okay, so, and this is of course my field of just the research that I love, is, okay, one particular strain of bacteria in the microbiome is called Akkermansia muciniphila. Now, this particular keystone species, as its second name demonstrates, is a key role in protecting our cells. So those little epithelial cells that line our digestive system, they're actually pretty fragile, meaning like if you look down your hand, they're very similar epithelial cells, but we have 3 layers in our skin. And think how easy it is to cut your skin. You can do it with like a paper cut. From an internal perspective, a lot of those tissues are only one single layer thin. But that is the barrier. That is the single barrier between the external world and our internal world via the bloodstream, and then the bloodstream goes up to the brain, doesn't it? So we need to have this protection, and one of the mechanisms for protecting these very fragile single cells is we have a layer of protective mucin. It's like a mucus layer. Now, who keeps the mucin layer there? Good bacteria, and in particular, the one I mentioned, Akkermansia muciniphila. Now, if we have conditions like ulcerative colitis, which is a condition where you often don't have any of that protective mucin left, and so there's a lot of inflammation in that area, I say one of the key foods that you need to eat is pomegranate.
Oh, really?
Cranberry. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And this is the cool shit that we're really getting into. Like, it's like the tip of the iceberg. We know a lot now about the gut-brain axis and the microbiome and this influence of nutrition and all that. But there's still so much to go. But what we do know is we're getting so specific to go, okay. And I see it in clinic. Like, you can do a fecal microbiome profile where we can test pancreatic enzyme, release. We can look at whether there is intestinal permeability or damage at the cells. I can look at your immune regulation of the gut. I can plot and chart all of the microbiome. Do I have any bad guys, any gram-negative bacteria? How many good guys do we have? So we can see that. And now if I see low levels of Akkermansia, what am I writing on someone's? You need to get cranberry and pomegranate in there. Another example is one called Faecalibacterium protsnitsky. It's a key role type of bacteria that produces butyrate. And butyrate is a short-chain fatty acid that we need for all of our colonic cells to be healthy. It's also what fits into the receptor site called the GLP-1 pathway. So you know how Ozempic is getting all the media?
How has that become a thing?
I know, because it's quick and easy, but shortcuts never.
Super unhealthy.
Oh, shortcuts never work. So Ozempic works by basically fitting into this GLP-1 pathway. But I'm trying to tell people everywhere, you have your own inbuilt Ozempic, but only if they're there. Meaning if you eat the right food and you have ones like Faecalibacterium protsnitzkii that then metabolize fiber from plant-based foods, turn it into the short-chain fatty acid butyrate, that butyrate will fit into the same receptor site. And
Wow,
it helps,
so we have a cheaper version of this synthetic shit that naturally we do.
Yeah.
You just have to eat some foods that produce that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it controls our blood glucose and our insulin. So from a weight perspective, if you're having challenges with weight, then, okay, we can break it down. If you need more of the Faecalibacterium protsnitzkii, chickpeas.
Yeah, right.
It's one of its favorite foods. That's what I was saying is it's really cool when you start to not only recognize food has these layers, like our nutrition has layers. It is a primal joy, and so it should be. But it should be mindfully eaten. It should be a ritual. It should be a cultural practice. We should really enjoy it.
And just to segue in that, Lyns, we'll put this in here from Dr. Daniel Amen, one of the top psychiatrists in the world. Just have a listen to this real quick, guys.
Foods that make you anxious. Anything that raises and then drops your blood sugar. Hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, can go with anxiety, panic, brain fog, upset stomach, headaches. And so think of them is high glycemic foods, foods that quickly raise your blood sugar because your pancreas sees it and goes zap with insulin, and then it can drop it below normal. So think bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, sugar, fruit juice, just unwrapped fruit sugar. And you always want to be curious about what's going on, not furious. So when you're anxious, ask yourself, so what did I eat?
Be curious, not furious.
I like that, yeah. Because sometimes people are too hard on themselves about their nutrition. It's got to be a positive thing. It has to be positive. You got to, rather than I often say, if you're trying to get away from a health problem, like, I don't like this, or I don't feel better, or I don't want this weight, or this, that, and the other, rather than focusing on, you know what, I really want energy. I want to be able to move my body in a certain way. That subtle shift in the approach makes a massive difference. So I actually love that saying he said.
It's so indicative also of a lot of men I work with, how they shame themselves and they get in the shame spiral. Mm-hmm. So when I come in and I work with people, it's not necessarily, as we said before, and not shaming them and saying, you're a piece of shit, why do you do that? You need to be better. If they're drinking all the time, I'm not saying I need you to stop drinking altogether. It's just not going to happen. But at that casual reduction of why do you do it? Why do you feel that when you get home from work, you need 6 beers?
Yeah.
Let's actually talk about what's at the core of that. That's actioning that feeling that I need to go and drink a beer. Because what does beer do in your body, Lyns?
Yeah, it's a toxin. Everyone's wants to plug their ears and go, la, 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 I don't want to know. Yeah. Look, it's a fun toxin. I'll give everyone that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It is a toxin. It's a pretty heavy burden that the body perceives as, oh my God, I got to try and get rid of this. Yeah, it is a sedative. And so that's what I say is anyone that's drawn towards, addictions, look at, like you said, the deeper core meaning behind that. So anyone that has alcohol pretty prevalent in their day-to-day existence, I go, you've got probably some anxiety or stress, and you're just self-medicating. Totally understandable, because all your body wants to do is feel calm, but you're just choosing the wrong way to do it. So that's what I'm saying is rather than completely stopping someone with alcohol, I'm like, let's swap it out. Let's, use tactics and techniques that will give you that same thing, which is what your body really wants, which is to feel calm, but in a different way.
Can you touch on that gentleman's story that came into the store that day?
Yeah. So
I think that's perfect for this.
Yeah, totally. So I'm working a health food store. I always have for many years, just so I can always stay in the community. And I had a guy come in that, guys in health food stores look a little bit like deer in headlights at times. So I thought, oh, his missus probably sent him in for something, he can't find it, or, he's just kind of a bit lost. So I went up to him and I said, hey, mate, can I give you a hand with anything? And he just he froze for a little while. And I just kind of was watching thinking, oh gosh, is this guy going to be okay? And then he just blurted out, I'm an alcoholic. And I said to him, you know what? All credit to you for speaking up and saying that. I said, that's awesome. I said, but you know what? That doesn't mean any negativity for me. I said, ultimately, that just tells me that there's something else going on. I said, do you mind me asking? I said, do you worry a lot? Or have you got high pressure going on? Have you had some traumatic experience or something that's going on recently? And he said, I literally worry about everything. And I go, that's the challenge. So you're not an alcoholic. You're just someone that probably hasn't recognized how much the anxiety and the worry has influenced your life. So I said to him, look, some people have the fortitude to just go, nah, I'm done. I'm fully done. And they make that commitment in there. But it's probably a bit more rare. So I said the same thing. I said, let's swap this out. And so my go-tos, obviously, for someone that has anxiety is always kind of certain nutrients. Magnesium has to be in there. It's a cofactor for over 300 different biochemical pathways, probably even more than that. Very, very important. Very calming for the nervous system.
Certain brand you usually go to?
Yeah, there's different types of magnesium for what you want it for. So magnesium L-threonate crosses the blood-brain barrier. Magnesium glycinate is pretty much a good all-rounder that I go to help kind of calm down. It's often a lot of different sleep formulas. But I always say if you do have pretty next-level anxiety, then you need to have lemon balm and passion flower in it. Yep. So magnesium, lemon balm, passion flower is my little trio that I always say start there first. Make a little mocktail out of it. That part of sitting down and having a beer or a glass of wine or whatever it may be, it's a ritual, isn't it? So I don't want to take your ritual away. I'm just going to take that glass away and I'm going to give you something else. Still tastes good.
Yeah, it's so true. Like I asked a client the other day because he tells me how even like his Tuesday is his Sunday. Mm-hmm. And he was telling me how he's going to like we've only just started and I'm not, as I said, I don't judge or shame. I look at the way that I can shift the perspective on the program. And he was saying, oh, I'm just going to my mate's place for a barbecue to have a few beers. I'm like, why? And just that question, he's like, fuck, I don't know. Like he's got a cool bar set up and we just have drinks before we go back to work. I'm like, yeah, cool. How about we just change that?
Yeah. Grab a kombucha.
Yeah,
it technically has a slight amount of alcohol.
You still, because it really at the core of it is connection with friends.
It is. And having something, a drink in your hand, it's just, it's the ritual. So don't change a ritual that can really ground you. Swap it out for something else. There's actually some beers out there now that, like, if you like the taste of beer, there's non-alcoholic. There's one that we, I don't remember the brand. I'll have to find it for you, Trav. That tastes exactly like beer, but there's no alcohol in it at all whatsoever.
Perfect.
Yeah, so you could technically still have a beer without, the detrimental aspect of it.
Well, is beer, it's a fermented food, right?
It is.
Could they almost make like a healthy gut bacteria beer?
Well, that's kind of what kombucha is.
Yeah.
It's kind of what kombucha is. And there is a tiny, tiny amount of alcohol in kombucha. Yeah. Small amounts.
Okay, because I've had this idea, this concept for years now to create like a protein beer in some way. I don't know if it's possible or not, but I was like, man, imagine, because my concept was when I had Arcadian coaching 4 years ago with my mate KP, we built this idea and I drew it on paper and it was this big coliseum that has like a gym, different professionals in there like yourself, myself, like clients, all that. But then they had a bar downstairs that was a healthy bar.
Love it.
And create like healthy foods. But you have beers that were called like Zeus and Achilles and that, but they were protein beers.
I love it.
Like I was like, why not? Wait, is that possible?
Absolutely. Anything's
the
possible.
rewire beer. I don't know. Like it's rewiring people from becoming alcoholics to, hey, it still tastes and is beer, but it's got good shit in it.
And it's also going to help encourage the right type of bacteria to help your neurotransmitters.
Okay, this is cool. Cool.
So I love it. Yeah. And that's where you're starting to see all kinds of like nootropic type stuff that, we're starting to rethink nutrition and our drinks and our even coffees and things that you add to them to make them, so much better.
What do you think started that shift? More of these conversations?
Yeah, I think so. Look, the natural therapy side of things, the holistic medicine, I feel like all of us that are in there is like we're stubborn as shit.
Yeah, you are. And thank God you are.
You know what I mean? Isn't it? We've got a lot that we're trying to go against as a huge industry. And I'm not bad-mouthing the medical industry, as in 100% we absolutely need the medical industry.
It's saved me many times.
100%. When you are in acute, you're in an emergency situation, they are going to save your life, and we need to honor that.
Yeah.
The reality is that that's the role when it comes to prevention and probably all the in-between. That's maybe where we need to own our own health and have our own strategies for it.
Because ultimately, we don't want you to have to get to that point.
No, ideally not. So, like I said, those of us on the sort of, I guess, more natural therapy side, we've been waving this flag for a really long time, thinking, because you believe in it so much, because I think you believe in something that works, that you've seen time and time and time again. If it didn't work, we probably wouldn't all be around here going, hey, focus on your nutrition. So I think, maybe persistence. I don't know, a bit of an awakening. I've definitely seen it shift. I've been in the industry for over 18 years. And look, let's just say 12 years ago, it was pretty hard to get people to shift and even consider any dietary change. They just thought it was a little bit woo-woo.
Yeah, and I think what's also happening from what I'm seeing is a lot more women going into self-development.
Yeah.
So coaching, working with you.
Yeah.
And it's bringing clarity to their mind of what they actually want in a man as well.
Yeah.
So,
vice versa.
And it's seeing that people are needing to step up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to get left in the dust. And I'm not saying this in a way of like, oh, you have to be better or your partner's going to leave you. It's just more so people are realizing their own worth and what they actually deserve.
Yeah.
They don't have to. Some of these dynamics that I see play out where it's like the old school dynamic of the wife just staying at home and cleaning and doing the things, right? It's like, no, she can do whatever she likes and she's going to, and it's okay. But the men that are so used to that dynamic, which they watch their father play out, where it's go to work, don't show emotions, don't be emotionally available for your kids, you just provide. I love the men that just get out there and grind their ass off and just work and make money for their family. It's beautiful. But please, let's not do it at the detriment of your own health.
Yeah, no, and like those roles, like I said, we need to find the balance. Like I think it's really important. I think there's a beautiful aspect of having feminine roles and masculine roles. I think that's really important. I think you feel grounded in them. But yeah, I think our children, more than anything, if we want to start raising generations that are a little bit different, we need to have both mom and dad equally influencing that. That's one thing I honor about my husband is he's very, very active in my daughter's roles. And I want that because then that sets the example of the type of guy that, they're probably going to be a bit more drawn towards. So it's huge. And so men have a really important role in our children as well. And as much as, women or mothers do as well.
Oh, this is even a great topic to segue into of like how your kids reflect your actions, not your words.
I could even go, you want to deep dive even further than that? Yeah. Not that us women need any more pressure. When we talk about anxiety, it starts in utero. So they've done all kinds of research recognizing that, if you synthesize a stressful environment in like rat experiments again, that what happens is that because of that noradrenaline, that cortisol response that goes through the mother's bloodstream, it epigenetically, so this activates our genetics to the point where we have these little methyl groups that sit on stress points on our DNA, and what we will see is the generations below will have a higher propensity for anxiety. And we're seeing more and more of that. This is part of that whole, probably that percentage of 25% increase. The kids that are coming up now, they're actually calling them, which is really sad, they're calling them the anxious generation.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, not a great title. But a lot of it you have to recognize is that if mothers while pregnant are stressed externally, emotionally, with past trauma, whatever it might be, in a not great relationship, as well as internally the nutrition's not quite right, then unfortunately we will 100% see that epigenetic expression in the children. So it's kind of like, as women, that's kind of like, oh, God. We have to flip it on its script and go, wow, I the biggest gift I can give to my baby is for me to be healthy, which is why I love there's so many women and men, because men are part of it. They're 50% of the contribution with pregnancy, preconception, starting to think 1 to 2 years out before you're even having a baby, you need to actually start working on yourself and your health then. It's the biggest gift that you can give to your child. Yeah. So I'm going to give you a personal example of how this can interplay. So I have 2 daughters. Willow's my oldest one. My little one, Millie's 9. When Millie was born, cruiser of a kid, chilled out baby, just easy, like really easy. At 3 months, we discovered she had hip dysplasia, which was complete blindsiding because I normally catch that right in birth because I always check the hips to see if they're clicky. But for whatever reason, it got missed. And it was our GP at the time that was doing standard 3-month check that found it. So he jumped and I said, what? And so we got the scans. Basically, hip dysplasia means that babies don't actually have like a complete ball and socket in their hip joint. It's wherever that ball is sitting is where the actual like socket will start to form. That's how babies can bend and twist up into like these contortional shapes.
Okay, yeah.
So they don't actually have that hip socket until after birth, or that starts in the beginning. So hers was in the wrong position, which meant that her socket was going to be starting to form in the wrong area. So she had to go into a procedure. But to be honest, it was a really difficult time because it was very heavily medical. At one point at 3 months, we had to take her to an MRI. And MRI, like in a machine where they put you in the tube and they scan you, but you have to be completely still. How do you keep a 3-month-old baby still? So they had to put a weighted, like not lead, but vest on her that was extremely heavy to try and pin her down. And I had to go into the other end where her head was and pin her arms down so that we could try and get a scan. And she, I can still remember it at this day. Babies cry, right? When they need something, and it activates that primal part of a female body anyway. This cry was like at a whole another level. Primal. I would say primal. To the point that it broke me.
Like a survival scream.
Yeah. I couldn't do it. Like I actually felt physically sick, and we kept trying and she kept moving and I couldn't do it. So I kind of broke, and I had to try and trade off to my husband and ask if he could try. She went through all the procedures. She also had an anesthetic. She had got knocked out. They wouldn't let me be in there with her. So she was stripped away and taken away from her family from a very young age. After that, she changed. So what that was, and this is where trauma, which is all the work that you do, we can't, we're talking a lot about the gut, the nutrition, the brain. There's this other aspect is, yes, there is a mental health side of it and the trauma that you experience. After that experience, she was still, happy baby, but Mama's intuition, she changed. Now, we have anxiety in my side of the family. My dad does. So there's that genetic predisposition. The experience that she had during all this medical intervention that was very primal for her, not understanding what was going on, was an epigenetic switch. And she became quite nervous, quite anxious, quite shy, very not trusting towards men for very long. She's doing great now, but it's taken a long time. So that's an example of how you can have this genetic predisposition, and at any moment in your life, whether it's been in utero, just after you were born, childhood, adulthood, those traumatic experiences, you can have some of these little epigenetic switches that are activated. The key to deactivating them is very much working on the trauma, also using these tools to calm down nervous system, using nutrition and that nutrigenomics, the way nutrition talks and communicates to your genes, to kind of unwind it. So it is shiftable. Hence now she's doing great now, but man, I had to work hard.
How old is she now?
She's 9.
That's so cool that at that age she's already working through that stuff, because these are the things, guys, like those moments like that Lynn's just talking, like I was getting emotional thinking of that, because
for her, can you imagine?
I could feel it. And this is what happens to people, that our monkey brain adapts to the world around us. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the monkey brain and soul doesn't really co-align a lot of the time. So, even I was doing a tech talk last night with a beautiful young lady, and her work environment broke her.
Yeah.
And she said, I've just got a really bad memory. My childhood was great. Mm-hmm. I asked her a few questions and she was like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't so great. Because I think people think trauma is like you were molested or beaten, all these things. And it's like, guys, it could be that your dad wasn't emotionally available for your entire childhood.
Actually, I just came across listening to Gabor Mate.
He's the GOAT. He is amazing.
I've got tickets to his thing next year. Have you got
Actually,
tickets
same. Yeah.
Cool.
Christelle got him, yeah.
Good, probably.
Yeah.
So he put up a post not that long ago that he said that anxiety will increase when you have to try and make a choice between your authentic self and being accepted and loved.
Praise. That's the main thing I tell people.
Yeah.
It's like you're trying to be something for everyone else rather than yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you will feel more anxious the farther you disconnect who you really, really are. And sometimes it's a hard road to get to the point where you feel comfortable with yourself. Because if you've got a lot of other messaging, you gotta rewire and undo all that sort of stuff. But it's all doable. That's what I was saying. Is I think so much of anxiety and depression, we just
It's a disorder that I've lived with now. It's like they just accept it. It's like I can't change this. This is me.
You absolutely can.
100%.
Yeah.
And like I know this for myself to be true because it's something. That's why now I've told myself I'm the anxiety coach because. Yeah, that's a symptom you experience. And it's something that can be shifted through things that Lynn's has talked about, but also the stuff that I do with the shadow work and the unconscious reprogramming. It's all a collective change.
Yeah.
But at the other side of it, you go from, say, if people know my story, where I go from this kid that could barely talk to my parents, I was that shy, to now running one of the top podcasts in Australia. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
When we think about how we're taught to believe that we are what we are. We can never change. We're just, that's just me.
Yeah, you got to have the will and the drive, knowing that there is something different.
Oh, so much.
We talked about, like at the beginning, the Latin root of anxiety means to strangle.
Yeah. Like,
That means,
visualize that.
Yeah. Strangle of the authentic person you really are. Yeah.
How did you find your authentic self?
Through hardship.
Yeah, we know. If you guys want to hear Lynn's story, go listen to the first episode because holy.
It's everything that's kind of, look, I start to recognize now that uncomfortable feeling of, I'm not feeling great right now. I'm trying, now it's to the point I'm like Pavlov dogging it and going, this is growth. Okay, this is growth. I feel really uncomfortable and shit right now. This is growth. And I think if you can start to flip it around and look at it in a different light. That's one of the key aspects. But there's all different ways that you can approach this. And, there may be a time and a place even where you may have to rely on certain medications, like when things are really next level and you need a rope to hold on to. Some of these anxiolytic medications and antidepressants, they can help for a short time. But what I would say is they're not getting to the root cause. And the interesting research that we're seeing now with things like antidepressants is, if you were to pick one medication that is probably the most well-known for wiping out the microbiome, what medication do you think you'd say?
Antidepressants?
Well, you just jumped to my thing. It was actually supposed to be antibiotics.
Oh, right.
That's right. You just jumped in. But yeah, now we realize is that we thought it was just like antibiotics and other medications were the ones that were like napalm for the microbial diversity, and we now realize that antidepressants also have a similar effect, is in they will lower your species diversity in the microbiome. So
it actually makes the anxiety worse that they're trying to treat. The
it just
cross barrier,
it'll probably lift you out of that trench that you're in.
The freeze state.
Which is okay, and it's okay to use that at that time, and I'd say I'm all support. I don't want anyone to suffer. At some point, this is what I'd always say, use that to get you out of the trenches. Then start making changes on your nutrition, your nervous system activation, how you live, your exercise, what you do, some trauma work. Do all the background work while you're using that medication as a tool, and then slowly taper and get off of it. Because then by the time you let go of that medication, you've already got all the strategies in place to really get to the root cause of what you need to do to fix it properly.
I love this. What I've just pictured is what we can probably take the listener through. Someone's on antidepressants or medication they've been on for years, right?
Yeah.
Things to just help in a way.
Yeah.
Can you picture that for them a day from starting from breakfast?
Yeah.
How does the day look for them to start to rewire their environment, their gut microbiome? Like how does that look and feel?
Yeah. The first thing I would say from a morning and a night perspective, don't touch your phone.
Fucking oath.
Don't. So you know how many people, the first thing they do when they wake up, what do they grab?
Who messaged me? Who's on socials?
I know it's hard. They've programmed it just right to get that dopamine part of our brain.
Mm-hmm.
Just put it, I don't know, farthest room possible that you can at the nighttime. So I say, don't look at that. What you need to look at is the right kind of lighting, which is ultimately either a sunrise or a sunset. It programs our cortisol. So I often say from an adrenal perspective, we're most receptive right upon waking. This is why if we use adaptogenic herbs as practitioners, we often dose it in the morning because that's when we know the adrenals are more willing to take it and use it. But the minute you open your eyes, depending upon what goes through your mind and what you do is going to set the theme for your entire day. So if you are an active mind, which look, I'll put my hand up and be like guilty.
Same.
Just all over my face. Try and just do something that is just one thought. And it might be like I just had, it could be any kind of ritual that you design. Might be going up, getting a glass of water, putting a pinch of salt, going outside, just watching whatever side of the house that the sun's coming up. My ritual is I got to go down. I have to see the sunrise every morning with my dog.
Yeah, same.
I just don't feel right if I don't do it. There has to be something that you do that is just slowly giving your body this message, because our body is this incredible sensory system. It's trying to take in everything. The minute you open your eyes, what's going on? What's the day going to be like?
Are we safe?
Yeah. Are we doing okay? What messages are you giving it? So if you're going immediately into your a million to-do list, that's the thing. It's crazy how we define stress, because when you ask, like on my intake form, I have 2 questions. How stressed are you, 1 to 10? How busy are you, 1 to 10? The reason I ask those questions one after another is because people will now, because stress is so common, they'll be like, oh, it's 5 or 6. But then they'll be like, how busy are you? Oh, it's like 9 or 10. And I go, okay, well, I got the real answer on how stressed your physiology is. So because we rationalize it in a different way, a thought is what starts out your stress response system. It's HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals. Adrenals release that cortisol, noradrenaline, adrenaline, which is those molecules that are very powerful in the body to go respond. Sends a signal up to the thyroid. Let's liberate glucose. Let's get energy. Let's go, 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 go. It's kind of like in a war movie where they're like yelling, get the troops. Let's go, 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 go.
Attack.
Yeah, that's literally the message that can happen from a thought. That's what we need to recognize. And because we have so many thoughts and so many phone distractions and like coming into our sensory system so much, this is why we have 25% increase of anxiety and anxious generations coming up. It's too much. Our brain is overwhelmed. And so it sends the signal down. And then like what we know too is, okay, from the top down end of this gut-brain axis, when you have stress response, cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, like I said, they're biochemical trump cards, meaning when they're in the bloodstream, a lot of other things go to the wayside. This is digestive health conditions as well as hormones. For women, it's a huge link with hormone dysregulation. We know that when cortisol consistently is in there, good bacteria get the hell out. Because what's the message they're getting? Holy shit, we're under attack 24/7. I don't want to be in this home. This isn't a good place to be. And then this starts this really vicious cycle. And then when you don't have the right type of microbes, and well, we've talked about it already, what happens then? So it's important to start your morning and your evening really, really well with a ritual. So develop some kind of ceremony or ritual. I think we need to bring them back in for sure. The first thing I do from a nutrition perspective, and I've blabbed on a lot about this, hence like my...
Dinner for breakfast.
Yes. Again, if you look at nutrition... And we talked about, I didn't actually get to finish that. We need to look at our nutrition at 3 layers. It's primal, it should be a joy. It also should be layered in as what nutrition and nutrients that our organs and systems need. And the 3rd layer is obviously what is that going to do to our microbiome, which then influences us. So there's 3 layers to our food. So the first meal that you decide for the day, just because again, your adrenals are going, what's happening? What are we doing? If you give it the best meal in your first meal, which has protein and amino acids and B vitamins, which we know we need, plus fermented foods ideally, or a herb that has a lot of natural medicine in it. You can have complex carbs in there as well, not highly refined ones, but half the plate, color. Go by color. That's all that I actually took a picture. I didn't put it up yet. I'm probably annoying people of all my breakfasts. I just keep putting them up there to go, this is an example of what you can eat for breakfast. I actually don't want you to eat breakfast foods. That message of what nutrition will give your body, your adrenals, your system, your energy, your metabolism, your microbiome is huge. And watch what happens. So if all else fails, if you're listening, you're going, what do I do? Look at your morning and evening rituals and start out by your first meal and just nail that. You naturally make better choices anyway, because going back to what he was saying about your glucose, like when you eat traditional breakfast foods are cereal and toast and, maybe there's bacon and eggs in there. But they tend to be a little bit more on the refined carbohydrate perspective. So that's going to send your glucose up, and then insulin's going to come in, like he said. It's going to go way down. You're going to be crashing all up and down. So your energy is going to be shithouse. Telltale sign is if you crash in the afternoon, you haven't nailed your nutrition.
Yeah, I don't crash anymore, at all. Last year, all year.
Yeah, well, like
I
2
need
to
that sleep
3.
at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it would
That's
ruin
a
my
sign.
work day.
Yeah, that is a sign of whether you got it right. And it starts generally by that first meal. So that's what I was saying, is it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. I'm such a visual. I know people, I'm never advocating for counting macros or calories or any of that, because food is meant to be a beautiful part of life. You just have to look, fist-sized portion of protein, a little bit bigger if it's plant-based sources. You need to have a good fat on there. You need to have ideally a fermented food or a herb. Complex carbs, about 1/4 cup or 1/2 cup, and then you need, color, rainbow. Basically, that it's fun. When you look at like I did it this morning, I just looked at my plate. I'm like, ooh, I'm missing purple. So I was like I'm digging around. I'm like, I need green. Like it's actually turns it into a really positive, fun experience. And it's as simple as that.
When it's gamified, it makes things so much easier.
Yeah.
I love that. Do you make sure a lot of your clients get sun during the day as well?
Yeah. It's vitamin D is a huge one.
Yeah.
We should talk. So we talked about things that are helpful: magnesium, lemon balm, and passion flower. Vitamin D is key. It's a hormone. So vitamin D is an immune modulator. It has a key role in mental health disorders. So if you have not tested your vitamin D in bloods, you need to get it tested. Ideally, we're like it's sitting around 100. Most people think here in Southeast Queensland, there's no way I'd have vitamin D deficiencies. I cannot tell you how many I see, and pretty low.
Because there's the other side of it where some of them can't absorb it properly as well, hey?
Yeah. There are genetics involved. I was actually one of them when I did my genetic investigation many, many years ago when it first came out. I grew up in Hawaii, surfing in the sun all the time, and I was like, I couldn't get my vitamin D up around past 65. I was like, man, what the heck's going on here? In hindsight, a lot of on my dad's side of the family, there's autoimmune conditions just rampant, and a lot of mental health challenges and anxiety as well. Rampant through that side of the family. And so when I did my genetic analysis, I had 5 different SNPs in either the transport or transfer of vitamin D, which meant, I had to work harder. So it was a really insight in for me of, that's a key component of why I have such autoimmune and mental health challenges on that side of the family. So it's a key part. So vitamin D is really important. And then, like I said, B vitamins. If people take a B vitamin complex, the one thing I would say is it needs to probably be a high quality one and a methylated version. So methylation, we could probably do a whole podcast, genetics and methylation in relation to anxiety, but it is a key component. There are some of us, and a good proportion of us, that have what we call SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms, or changes in our gene coding, which can predispose us to be a little bit more on the anxious side. And it has to do with these little methyl groups. And the easiest way to understand methylation is it's a carbon and 3 hydrogens. It's this little molecule that needs to be attached to DNA, B vitamins, different proteins, for it to cause a signal. And some of us have an impaired ability to do that.
On that, do you follow Gary Brecker at all?
I love that I was like, when he finally got out there, and obviously he's got such a broad range, I'm like, yes.
So you rate him, what he talks about and stuff?
Homocysteine is something that I've been testing for years.
Cool.
Getting so much slack from GPs because they think it's just a cardiovascular marker.
Yep.
It tells me about someone's methylation status as well, cellular B12 deficiency and things like that.
Because he talked about how anyone with ADHD struggles to methylate certain, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, methylation will either be towards B vitamins, proteins, or certain areas of DNA where they lock onto that. And it's like a little switch that switches how your DNA works. And so, often people with a higher level of anxiety have 2 SNPs, meaning they have a copy from both mom and dad. Now, when I did the most famous one is MTHFR, which they call the motherfucker gene. Yes, when it's not working in your favor, I can understand the name. It's only one of several, though. There's MTR, MTRR, there's more genes in this transsulfuration methylation pathway. But it is a key part of our mental health, because off from this biochemical pathway, we make our neurotransmitters. So if you have any impaired ability to do something in that area, then it's going to probably translate in mental health. So that's what I was saying. If people are looking for, like, I don't want it to be the takeaway key thing here is you can't out-supplement a bad diet. The one thing I'd say about natural therapies and supplements is please pick quality and make sure the forms of the nutrients are the right ones, because, you could potentially be doing a bit of damage. So you don't want the shitty stuff, basically. You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
But magnesium with passion flower and lemon balm and like a methylated B is probably where I'd say if you start there, you can't go wrong. You know what I mean? So start in that area, and then you can work on support. But the nutrition has got to be, the absolute foundation. And there's amazing foods that help us. For example, one of the foods that I often tell people to have, particularly if they, depression side and low moods, is turkey, which is not a very Australian food. It's a very American thing. So turkey is a source of tryptophan.
I remember you saying this in the group call.
Yeah.
I was blown away by it.
Yeah, so tryptophan is a precursor to serotonin. So, let's give your little microbes some tryptophan and let them do their thing so that we can increase the production of serotonin naturally and then send it up to the brain.
Yeah,
so
wow.
there's beautiful things. Green tea. Green tea is an awesome food that has L-theanine in it, and L-theanine is really calming. So that's the cool thing. We have incredible foods. There's a whole group of foods that we call methyl donor foods. So anyone that has issues with methylation, these are all things like, your beetroot liver is actually amazing. I know, again, not a very glamorous food. Its nutrient profile is pretty amazing, but it's probably one of the best methyl donor foods that we have. Oysters is another one.
Do you rate the supplements of the liver stuff that they're doing now?
Yeah, as long as quality. Liver is, because of what it is, it's the organ that's your main detoxification organ. Again, do not buy cheap liver, because it could be full of toxins. And that's what I'm saying, is you could be potentially doing a little bit more damage. All good intention, but without making the right choice.
Don't go to Chemist Warehouse.
Are we allowed to say names?
I mean,
you're going to be banned.
That big place with the giant signage everywhere. Yeah.
Yes. Look, they may have some quality brands. I don't know. I haven't been in there for a little while.
Yeah.
But you just have to. The cool thing is there's some really incredible brands out there now that have got integrity and they have full disclosure. So if you go onto a brand and they are fully disclosing their manufacturing, their sourcing, where they're getting it from, that's a pretty good measure of whether you can, trust them. If they have clinical data, even better. They can HPLC, do analysis on nutrient profiles and stuff like that. So, yeah, absolutely. So if you don't love liver, which I know is not everyone's cup of tea, you can. Yeah, you can. I prefer the ones that are just powder rather than capsules. I find the capsules always stick in your...
Yeah.
They're brutal, aren't they? They're like a killer.
Yeah. Well, depending on also what sort of capsule they've used, I guess, too.
Yeah.
What's the quality of that?
Yeah. I haven't found one yet that's not damn, that hurts. So I use a powder, which is just a pure open powder, freeze-dried, organic. And so I sprinkle it into cooking. You can put it on anything and everything, up to a point. My children have looked at me once when I've made dinner, and I'll put liver in things as much as I can, and then they kind of look up at me, and I'm like, oh, I just went a little too far. The taste.
What the fuck
they're
is this?
Like, Mom.
Yeah, come on.
They know that I spike their food and drinks all the time, but they're probably like, I can taste this. I'm like, sorry.
Yeah, well,
heavy-handed.
With the powder forms, is there any brands in particular for you that you've used that have been quite good over the years?
Yeah, I like Gel Pro, and I've interviewed that
Pro?
company for another business that I am part of, and I've run them through the gauntlet of questions of
that's cool.
And they're great. They're fully open about it. So Gel Pro is the one that I use. It actually has just an open tub of freeze-dried organic liver powder.
Amazing.
So you can just sprinkle that into foods. But yeah, oysters are another one. There's a huge range. A lot of your plant-based foods are incredible as well. That's what I was saying, is each food, if you look at each food as having a gift to not only you, but your other little symbiotic creatures in there. And that's what I'm saying, is we are a symbiotic organism. Whether we think that's cool or not, it's reality. There's more bacterial DNA in us than our own DNA.
I love that. There's an old movie, Osmosis Jones.
Oh, okay. I haven't
Have,
seen
have
that.
you ever seen it?
No.
So
No.
I think it's Chris Rock actually voices the main character.
Oh.
It's funny, but it's the insides.
Yeah.
It's all the stuff inside us all working together.
Yeah.
And in my brain, I'm going like, yeah, I could feed my whole community of these little symbiotic people, versions of me. I can just picture little versions of me running around in different areas of my gut.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, hey, let's actually give them some cool shit.
Yeah.
And then we feel better. Pretty straightforward, right?
It is. I know. Look, I've been preaching this for many years. Just nutrition makes a massive difference.
Yep.
It's what we do 3 times a day, every day. It's going to have an influence on what you're doing.
I like what you said on the call where you said, why don't you guys try to connect again with the people that even produce your food?
Yeah.
Farmers markets, like going down and actually getting, like receiving that butter or bread, whatever it is, and like seeing who actually made that and got it for you.
Talk to them.
Yeah.
Because they're passionate about it, isn't that someone, okay, don't you want love in your food?
100%.
Yeah. So these farmers markets are ones that are obviously, because trust me, farmers don't get enough credit. That's a hard life, and it's brutal and it's stressful, and the weather could just you could lose tons of I don't think we honor our farmers enough. And there's some really incredible ones that are working on, again, the soil microbiome.
I heard Cal and Jake talking about this the other day with a farmer.
Yeah.
A beef farmer, I think it was.
Yeah, good. It's so important because, okay, what fixes nutrients in the plants that we then rely on to give us nutrients?
The soil.
The soil microbiome, the bacteria that are in there. There's nitrate fixing bacteria. If they're not there because of the traditional farming practices and synthetic fertilizers that we're using, that again, those microbes are very sensitive. We have sensitive souls down in our gut. We have sensitive little souls in our soil as well. So they're going to be really perceptive to what's going on if there's chemicals and toxins, and they're not going to want to be there. And then we see this translate into the fact that sometimes our nutrient status of even whole foods isn't quite as good as it used to be, which is kind of frustrating as heck. You can have a garden in your backyard, however.
Yeah, well, they're even trying to bloody make that illegal in some areas, which is wild.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Have I not heard of this?
So I swear, and I don't want to get this wrong, but I swear down in Victoria, they were starting to bring in a law that you can't grow your own veggies and stuff in your yard.
Oh, my God. You know what? Try and fight me.
Yeah. Come on. You got carrots and shit in your hand. Let's go.
You know what my most favorite joy is when I'm making my girls' lunch boxes. I'm like, Willow, Millie, run down to the garden and go pick some snow peas or some sugar snap peas, or go get some rocket. We have a big banana. We've got, actually, my husband hates my banana trees. He thinks that they're the pest. But I'm like, it's food. So I have one just about, and I look at it every day, and my God, they're the most incredible tasting bananas. That's my biggest joy, is that my children actually know where food comes from, because
at that age to understand that's huge.
They don't know any different, but there's a lot of children that, don't. It was one of the reasons I stopped doing clinical nutrition and got into teaching for about 5 years. My ulterior motive was to try and get into schools to work with children and get them this. And it took 3 years of writing grant applications, but eventually, after 3 years, we got a $25,000 gaming grant, and we did a big permaculture garden. And the parents were coming in after the first year, and we had a lady called Leonie Shanahan, which her book is what I use to make my soil recipe. It's next level soil. So I think I've posted that once on my page, the actual recipe.
Leonie Shanahan.
Yeah. Edible, I think it's just called Edible School Gardens or Eat Your Garden or something like that. But yeah, her soil recipe is amazing. So we did this whole, permaculture garden with the kids, and the parents were coming in going, okay, how did you get my kid to eat kale? I go, I did nothing. Your child planted the seed in the soil and watered it and watched it grow and then got curious. And that was the key. And kids were eating it, because there's such a big battle now with children and picky eating, and they're not wanting to do these things. So I was reconnecting to your food, your farmers, and not only your farmers, but my gosh, I think everyone should have something, whether it just even be a herb garden on their windowsill or anything. You need to grow your food. It's a primal love.
You can buy veggie garden boxes and stuff from Aldi and stuff these days. Like they always have.
So easy.
There's things everywhere, and
Yeah.
you're right. And it's something that just takes a little bit of effort, but that effort, the result from that effort is huge.
100%.
You're happier, healthier,
Yeah.
all the things. There's something that you just touched on before that I really want to see if I can find it real quick before we finish up, because I heard it the other day. Funnily enough, it's a Joe Rogan episode with Guy Ritchie.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And it is incredible. There's this one part being about the master of your own kingdom. And he talks about how you are not you, you are everything. Because if I try to say, so who's Lynsey? Well, Lynsey's such and such, but she is also this. And then you get to the base of it and you're actually connected to everything else to be able to tell people who you are. And I'll see if I can get it in here.
He takes a sojourn into the material world, has to climb up all the different rungs on the ladder.
Underneath it.
Yeah, but I'm a storyteller.
So it's all about, here we go.
Also, maybe the structure that we
Let's go back a little bit
inherently
more.
human about them.
And it's all about the hero's
Do you think
journey
that
and
most
things like
people that are watching the film are going to get that, though? They're just going to get an entertaining story. They're just going to see a bunch of cool stuff, some drama play out. But this is fascinating that you're operating so many levels underneath it.
Yeah, but I'm a storyteller. It's my
Right.
business. So if I'm in the business of story, I might as well understand story. And do you need to understand all that? I'm not sure if you do. Depends where you are on the ladder. So you can just go along, have a nice bit of entertainment. Good guy,
Right.
bad guy. Everything's literal. There's nothing wrong with literalism. It is what it is. It's the game. You can glean what you can glean when you're ready to glean what you're ready to glean.
Are you a Joseph Campbell fan?
Oh, I love him.
I am a
Yes.
Joseph Campbell fan, yeah.
The hero's journey.
That's a reoccurring theme in his work.
The hero's journey.
Yes, the hero's journey. This underlying sort of narrative that just really guides all stories and all ancient tales, and that there's something inherently human about them, important about these stories, and that they resonate with our wants and needs and goals, and even also maybe the structure that we really truly need in our own life.
Yeah, I mean, all stories from whatever period, I'm sympathetic to this particular, to Joseph Campbell's philosophy on this. But he's not the only one, right?
Right.
The weird thing about religion is religion has done to the spiritual significance of narrative what the businessman did to the suit. He's literalized it. He didn't
Right.
realize that putting on a suit is putting on a suit of armor. Is putting on something that's rather spectacular. You're just doing it for convention. You're doing it for others. You're not doing it for you. And in our literal mind, we look at a narrative and we see the narrative for what we believe it to be, the exterior aspect of the narrative. So we see the world upside down. We're not actually interested in the essence of the narrative because we're so busy pandering after the approval of others. So everything that we see, every narrative that we listen to, every film that you see, you're not really interested in its soul. You're interested in its body because that's what we correspond to.
So true.
You know who you are, what you stand for, and what you like and who you love. And that whole clip, if anyone wants to go find that, it's just Master Your Own Kingdom on YouTube with Guy Ritchie and Joe Rogan. But there's a part in there that I couldn't find, but that was still great, around who you truly are and what you are, and that you are connected to everything all at once.
Yeah.
And I think when you really start to hear and feel what Guy Ritchie just said, even in that was perfect.
Yeah.
Why do we not go more internal? It's like we're so bothered by, again, when we go back to those young men going into the gym and doing steroids and just fucking their whole internal system up just to look better, but their mental health just is going down the gutter. How can we, listening to Lyns's episode today, reverse the whole process?
Yeah. It's something that's why I'm saying it's really, really important to get people to realize. I know just recently, are you a fan of Peter Crone?
Huge, yeah.
Yeah, I love his stuff. Something that hit me a long time ago, because there's times when you feel really low. Everyone's hit that rock bottom point where you feel like almost giving up on life. And Peter Crone phrased it in a way that he said, if you feel like death is the answer, that means that there's a very big part of you that needs to die for the rebirth, which was showing in that video again.
Hero's journey.
It is. It's such an important part. And when you start to recognize and take some of the pressure off yourself a little bit, there's so much pressure that we have in an internal mind. Sometimes I think as humans, we're so clever, so silly sometimes, as in we overcomplicate things a lot, and what we think and what we perceive, may not be the reality fully. And we have to be able to use tools to get us out, and not underplaying that we don't have these trauma experiences, which they need to do work on. We all need to do the work. But just start. There's so many different areas that you can start to make improvements on. Doesn't matter where you start. If you feel more comfortable focusing on the nutrition side, go for it. It'll help. I can pretty much bet my life on it.
Yeah.
Also working with someone like yourself, working on that trauma, talking about it, reframing the way that you're just looking at things. It's all perspective. I'm a really big fan of getting out of the head and into the body. And this is something I've had to learn to myself. You probably have learned it as well. So anxiety gets driven when you get stuck in a loop. It really, really does. It's a fear-based one. And so if we can try and get out of the mind and use physical stimuli. This is where I'm a very big aspect of body modalities, and I'll often give it to my clients. I said, you find whatever resonates with you. It might be tapping, might be breath work, might be sauna and ice bath, might be exercise. Could be even a Shakti mat. Have you ever seen those Shakti mats?
They're epic. I still need to get one.
Have you got one? Oh, yeah, I love mine. It's like better spikes.
Yeah.
So what that does is it gets you out of your mind and into your body, your physical being, realizing that you are connected. Because we feel like our whole world is here. We've got a whole other world literally down below. So the body modalities tend to be hormetic therapies. So exercise is an example of it as well. What we do know about hormetic therapies is if you give your body short, acute physical stressors that end, your body's biology and biochemistry and physiology adapts in a way that is beneficial, and it gives you actually stress resilience. Hence why, who would have thought jumping in an ice bath or laying on a bed of spikes is the solution to try and help some mental health challenges. Sounds like torture. It's like building a muscle. You expose your body to something that's a little bit uncomfortable, circling back to the being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Start to train yourself that feeling of, I'm not feeling great is a good thing. You're growing. So we could encourage all of the listeners that how do you get out of that little comfortably uncomfortable state? Start to seek out discomfort. That's your...
And get in your body.
Get into your body.
Which, Lyns, if you're open to it, as we finish this, I'm going to take everyone through a little visualization.
Love it.
Now, you should be able to do this as you're driving, as you're listening to this. You don't have to close your eyes. Please don't close your eyes if you're driving.
Yes.
Just take some deep breaths. Now, what Lynn's just said is exactly what I do. Even before I start sessions, I get everyone to do some just slow breathing. Just in through the nose and then out through the mouth. And just that little sigh is actually activating the vagus nerve that Lyns has been talking about this whole time. So rather than dissociating and staying in your head, we start to get into the body. Now, I did this last night with a client that I did a tech talk with. It's just a one-off talk. And she said this alone, in the first 5 minutes of us starting, she released these emotions she'd suppressed. She felt better. She felt lighter. So I'd like this to gift not only yourself, myself, but anyone listening. It's just a quick little visualization, 5 minutes with a song, because I love music. It adds so much. Now, this song, for anyone wanting to know, it's by Clan, I Hold You. It's an incredible song I use for my inner child connection stuff. So let's see how this goes. So just taking some deep breaths. If you're driving, please keep your eyes open. If you're at home, feel free to close down your eyes. And just let the melody wash over you as you settle into this moment. I want you to breathe deeply through your nose, feeling your chest and your belly expand. And exhale slowly through your mouth. That little sigh releasing any tension you've been holding. Now as you continue to breathe naturally, I want you to bring your awareness to your body. Feel the weight of your body against the surface supporting you. Notice any areas of tension or discomfort. And with each exhale, imagine releasing that tension fully. The soft voice in this music reminds you of the connection you have with yourself and the world around you. As you listen, visualize a warm, comforting light surrounding you. I want you to bring your attention to your thoughts. Notice them without judgment, like clouds passing in the sky. Acknowledge any anxious thoughts or self-doubt. and gently let them drift away with each exhale. I want you to imagine holding yourself like the words in this song. That same tenderness. Envision wrapping your arms around yourself in a comforting embrace, feeling the warmth and the acceptance in this self-hug. And as the music swells, allow it to fill you with a sense of possibility. Your life is a journey, full of transitions and growth. Each challenge you face is shaping you, preparing you for something greater. As we breathe again, I want you to exhale fear, breathe in self-belief, and exhale doubt. Your identity is not fixed. It is not your anxiety or your depression. Be fluid and ever-evolving. Embrace this flexibility. You are not defined by these things or your career challenges. You are a being of infinite potential. Now, as this music ebbs and flows, imagine it's the rhythm of life itself. Sometimes intense, sometimes calm. Trust this rhythm. Trust that you have the strength to dance to whatever beat life plays for you. Now, bring to mind the version of yourself who fully believes in your capabilities. See this self standing before you, radiating confidence and peace. What would this self say to you right now? I want you to feel those words of encouragement and let them sink into your heart. Feel your own inner strength building. With each breath, you're nurturing your relationship with yourself. You are worthy of love, especially your own. The path ahead may not be clear, but you have everything you need within you to move forward. Trust the process of life, trust yourself, trust us. And as the music begins to fade, just bring your awareness back to your breath and your body. Wiggle your fingers and toes, gently awakening to the present. Just remember what you learned today from myself and Lynsey. Knowing you have all you need within you to make the changes necessary. You are not stuck. This does not need to be you forever. What the world tells you you are, what the programs tell you are not that. You are a soul having a human experience. You can change things, you can heal, you can transform to whoever you want to be. You can be that version of yourself that's strong, that doesn't struggle with anxiety or depression or any of these other disorders they try to tell you about. You are powerful beyond measure. You are capable of anything that you want. We love you. And let's change. Let's rewire. That was cool.
So good.
So, guys, I just want to thank you for another incredible episode, and we're probably going to do 5 or 6 more. But again, the information in this is invaluable. As you said, I can just pretty much send this to everyone that I work with, and this can be a foundation for changing in itself, even without the work that I do with them. So thank you.
It's been a pleasure. So I say we'll reconnect and free ourselves.
Yes, I love that. And if anyone would like to connect with Lyns, it is...
Yeah, Seed and Sprout Nutrition. That's one of my platforms. I got way too many other businesses to mention them all.
Yeah.
You can just go there and find me if you have any questions or you need help. Actually, Trav, I was going to try and suggest that maybe even after this, I give you a list of foods that if I could say, hey, if you've got some mental health challenges and some anxiety and depression, eat this.
100%. Yeah, I'll do a Notion and just do it like a free download or something they can just have and send to them.
Yeah, love it. We'll do that for everyone that's listening.
Sweet. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And if you're listening and you're still here right now, Lynsey and I can't rewire our communities by ourselves. Please share this. Send it to someone you love. If you repost it in your stories, tag us in it. Because the bigger we get, the bigger our message gets, which means the bigger the transition and the change we have in the world in a positive way. I know Lynsey's got the same heart as I do. It's why we're friends. And we genuinely just want you to be happy and healthy, like we are most of the time. We still have our days. We're not perfect. Yeah. I'll speak for myself. Like, I still struggle. I'm not, like, as much as I'm a coach and I'm incredible at what I do, I still have my shit. It's human. It's normal.
Yin and yang.
Yeah. So please help us get this out there. Share it around. Give us some feedback. Let us know how it helped. And let's go. Thank you.
Oh.
Holy smokes. Yeah,
So good, Trav.
I miss podcasting so much. Because lately I've been so busy with coaching.
Yeah.
Like, I'm grateful.
You're
Like,
doing
I've had
some big stuff
7
now.
clients come in the last 2 weeks. So, which is cool. But I feel how different I am with my podcasting now too. I speak differently. My tonality is different. My ability to communicate, I don't swear as much anymore, because I've realized in the last couple of months, swearing and jokes was actually my way of masking pain.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yep. So I actually had a belief in myself that if I pretended to be dumb, that it was a safety mechanism for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, I'm just one of the boys, you know, like, yeah, bro, which I still am.
Yeah.
But being able to actually communicate in the way I do now without needing to swear all the time or simplify things and show how actually intelligent I am, it's like another mask has come off, which is really cool.
I think we underestimate, at the Aging Project, Amanda always does this to me, is like, oh, don't, try not to go too deep down the, and I'm like, I think we underestimate people. I think if you word it the right way, people can get it, and also they need to know about their body.
100%, and they'll research it.
They need to understand it.
Your stuff's so digestible, because all the boys, literally all of them, were just straight into, all right, I need to learn about L-theanine, like all this other stuff. Keep that with you 100%.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The girls are like,
whatever that's bringing for you.
I had to fight my daughters off with that. I was like, no, it's mine.
It's definitely like a hawk or an eagle or something.
Yeah, who knows?
Thank you so much for your time, Lynn.
Oh, all good, Chad. Like I said, I was hoping to give you something that added value to, like, your programs, and in that way, to be honest, that you put the right price point on it, and
yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's any doubt in people getting value. Like, you can add value and be like, guys,